Imagine the implications of a weapon with no visible trace, a weapon that could knock out tanks, ships, and planes as fast as the speed of light. The same technology with modifications could disorient and even tranquilize military personnel, rendering them virtually helpless in the battle zone. These are the new weapons of war we will examine in this series. For the past 40 years, the world has been riveted by the threat of nuclear war, and more recently by the prospect of space defenses using lasers and other modern technologies. But while both sides at the Geneva summit will be focusing on these matters, progress is being made in even newer weapons that could render any arms agreement relatively useless. Lightning is the most dramatic form of energy to be found in nature. Scientists have succeeded in creating limited types of artificial lightning, and some think that these could be the forerunners of a new type of directed energy weapon, part of a family of weapons which operate within the radio frequency segment of the electromagnetic spectrum, and are thus referred to as radio frequency weapons. Dr. James Frazier has researched electromagnetic effects for the Air Force for over 10 years, and he, like a small but growing number of weapons experts, feels that radio frequency, or RF weapons, could be the wild card in the ongoing arms race.
You could have tremendous amounts of radiative power, and what you did with that power then is a matter of engineering design and what your goal is.
High-powered microwaves, similar to a focused, ultra-high-intensity radar beam. It would literally cook humans and knock out computers and electronic surveillance and communications gear.
The term laser is an acronym. It stands for Light Amplification by Stimulated Emission of Radiation.
Their secret to building a laser? Change the way atoms behave. Atoms move in predictable patterns, but if they're exposed to very intense flashes of light, they become excited, and these hyperactive atoms are producing a tremendous amount of energy. In a flashlight, this energy would be released randomly in a scattered pattern. But in a laser, that frenzied energy is harnessed and released in a more directed, orderly pattern that generates piercing heat.
The remarkable works of Canadian inventor John Hutchison has drawn widespread attention from businessmen and government scientists since 1979, when he began using ultra-high electromagnetic frequencies to transform matter in some very unusual ways. It has come to be known as the Hutchison effect.
The objects you're seeing moving there is a form of levitation by translational movement, meaning that the objects become lighter and can float around. The heaviest being the barium cylinder that you see there with the two wires coming out of it. Tends to slide around on 7 pounds of its own weight. The physics of it is self-resonation of what they call ferromagnetic and piezoelectric barium titanate through a power amplifier and broad and narrow bands of electrical energy going into this crystal.
Hutchison's more dramatic experiments border on the paranormal and have generated more than just a passing interest from U.S. military research labs.
We've had about 750 demonstrations of levitations, translational movements, metallurgical samples falling apart, changing into transmuted unknown metals. Quite a variety of obscure types of effects, wood impregnated into metals, other objects in metals, monopole magnetic fields written up in many journals. Quite a host, or a Pandora's box, of different types of effects on the outer edge of the scientific community.
In this remarkable series of video clips shot by Hutchison, we see what happens when he fine-tunes the electromagnetic frequencies aimed at target objects in his barrage.
On the subatomic level, I feel that there is a dimension shift activated by very conventional electrostatics, RF, fields that I use and Tesla waves that I use that actually form a keyway that opens up another area of time and space that may activate the zero-point energy fields and interdimensional reactions, let's say, to gravitational waves and time waves, or chronons, if you wish. Perhaps we're dealing in chronons and gravitons, which are maybe particles, and somehow causing a distortion, which causes objects to simply break apart or pulsate in the center of stainless steel bars and fall apart, or to become weightless.
Here, ice cream in a plastic cup. Finally, a 70-pound cannonball. Immediately after the invention of the laser, there was a huge amount of excitement about, oh, look at all the things we'll try to do with this. And then it sort of occurred to people that they didn't have many applications. This was sort of a great invention without a purpose.
But the military eventually found a purpose. By 1962, the Department of Defense began weaponizing lasers as part of an arsenal that would come to be known as directed energy weapons. Like the electric discharge laser tested by the Army in 1983, the active denial system declassified in 2001, and Zeus, an anti-landmine laser deployed to Afghanistan in 2003.
The military values the idea of directed energy weapons for a lot of different reasons. One is that they can be extremely accurate. They also potentially give you ways of being able to attack your enemy from a great safe distance without having to, say, put any of your own troops at risk.
When these lasers go online in 2010, are we looking at the dawn of a new age in energy? Or are we looking at something else? A preview of the incomprehensible power that man could wield to fight the wars of the future. An effective laser weapon for use on the battlefield needs only a fraction of this power to destroy fighter jets, shoot down nuclear missiles, wipe out entire armies. Tomorrow's battles could look like a scene out of Star Wars. Powerful lasers on Earth beamed off of satellites in space to wipe out an enemy thousands of miles away.
If you have a powerful enough laser and a few properly positioned targeting satellites in orbit to reflect the beam, then you could fire a laser here in North America and deliver its energy to any spot on the surface of the Earth.
Dr. Falucci also ended up speaking about a laser weapon.
I don't think the bombing and the cluster bombs and the laser weapons could bring democracy to our country.
As in any war, the war in Iraq left us a dreadful gallery of horror, images of mutilations that not even doctors can explain. The witnesses refer to laser weapons, arms with mysterious effects. We do not know what kind of weapons could produce such terrible effects. We tried to learn more about it by asking for interviews to members of companies manufacturing laser and microwave weapons. Yet, the U.S. Defense Department prevented any information from being released to us. They also did not answer, up to the time the film was edited, the questions we had sent them in order to know whether or not experimental weapons had been tested in Iraq and Afghanistan. We tracked down the Pentagon press conferences from before the beginning of the Second Gulf War to see if they spoke about any new weapons being tested. The words of the Secretary of Defense and General Mayers indicate a willingness to try weapons that had never been used before, and the questions from the press about direct energy and microwave weapons made them visibly uncomfortable.
Mr. Secretary, can I ask you a question about some of the technology that you're developing to fight the war on terror, specifically directed energy and high-powered microwave technology? When do you envision that you can weaponize that type of technology?
Goodness. It is in, for the most part, the kinds of things you're talking about are in varying early stages. Do you have anything you'd add?
I don't think I would add much. I think they are in early stages and probably not ready for employment at this point.
In the normal order of things, when you invest in research and development and begin a developmental project, you don't have any intention or expectations that one would use it. On the other hand, the real world intervenes from time to time, and you reach in there and take something out that is still in a developmental stage, and you might use it. So your question's not answerable. It depends on what happens in the future and how well things move along the track, and whether or not someone feels it's appropriate to reach into a development stage and see if something might be useful, as was the case with the unmanned aerial vehicles.
But you sound like you're willing to experiment with it.
I think that's the point, and I think, we have, I think, from the beginning of this conflict, I think General Franks has been very open to looking at new things if there are new things available, and has been willing to put them into the fight even before they've been fully wrung out. And I think that's not referring to these two particular cases of directed energy or high-powered microwave, but
not referring to these two particular cases of directed energy or high-powered microwave,
but sure. And,
yes.
And we will continue to do that.
But what is meant by direct energy microwave weapons? We went to ask ex-Colonel John Alexander, former program director in one of the most important military research laboratories in the U.S., Los Alamos National Laboratory.
The research and certainly the concepts for directed energy weapons go back many decades. What is happening is that the technology has now advanced sufficiently that we're starting to see the weapons come into fruition. In other words, they're becoming real. There are several types of directed energy weapons, and basically what they do is they're known as speed of light because they shoot electrons very fast over very long distances. Lasers, of course, are in the light range. Then there's microwave weapons that are operating at other frequencies, but basically they're beam weapons in which nothing physical goes out. The electrons move, but the kinetic weapons you're talking about, you're shooting big bullets to go out and physically hit and destroy something. These work because the energy is deposed on the target and causes some effect.
These images document one of the TEL tests. TEL stands for Tactical High Energy Laser. In the sequence, you can see the laser beam hit and destroy missiles and mortar rounds as they are about to hit the objective. In this other test, we see the laser beam identify and destroy two missiles at the same time.
They don't make any noise and they are invisible.
Some are visible, some are, just outside. You have, in the infrared range. What's emerging now are laser weapons, where the effect is that of the laser. And they can be hole burners, what we call very high energy laser, because with the concentrated energy, you can literally drill holes, in a target.
Former Pentagon analyst William Arkin, who presently works as a journalist for the Washington Post, also confirms this revolutionary change from kinetic weapons to energy weapons.
For thousands of years, the way in which you've killed someone is you have hit them with a sword, a spear, an arrow, a bullet, a bomb. It's kinetic. You're killing them by hitting them. And now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you have a completely new physical principle being applied in killing people, in which they don't know that they're being killed because their skin and body is being heated by high-power microwaves, or they are being shot at by a laser, which would have an instantaneous effect.
There are other types of weapons made with lasers, such as the device we can see in the sequence. The target is not hit by a projectile, but rather by an impulse of energy that manages to bore through the armor of a tank. Apart from acoustic weapons, so far the only sign of the use of energy weapons in a war scenario is a laser device known as ZIUS. According to official Pentagon sources, military vehicles equipped with this laser device have been used in Afghanistan to explode mines or IEDs. According to two reliable military information sites, Defense Tech and Defense Daily, at least 3 such vehicles are being used in Iraq as well, and some people report having seen them.
When you showed me the pictures of what you described that is a laser weapon, it reminds me that I was with American soldiers talking in August 2003, and there was some kind of box on their tank with a blue light like this. I recall that very well, not because of the soldiers told me what it was used for, but because I was teasing a translator by telling, which was a female Iraqi translator, by telling, look, this is some kind of thing where they can look through and see somebody without clothes. That's why I reminded. But this kind of thing I have seen for sure on that tank.
Experimental weapons?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, they shoot the boss. We saw the boss as like a cloth, like a wet cloth. It seems like a Volkswagen. Big boss, like a Volkswagen.
This testimony was reported to American filmmaker Patrick Dillon a few weeks after the battle for the airport. The person interviewed, Majid Al-Ghazali, is a well-known and respected man in Baghdad, who is the first violinist in the city orchestra. In addition to describing the battle, Majid Al-Ghazali wanted to show Patrick Dillon the site near the airport where the mysterious weapon was used, along with the traces of fused metal still visible and the irregularly sized ditches where the bodies were buried before they were exhumed. We sought out Majid Al-Ghazali to hear more details of his story, We met up with him in Amman, and he pointed out some inexplicable peculiarities on the bodies of the victims of the battle for the airport.
Just the head was burned, and the other parts of the bodies wasn't anything that happened on it.
Al-Ghazali reported that he had seen 3 passengers in a car, all dead, with their faces and teeth burnt, the body intact, and no sign of projectiles.
There wasn't any bullet. I saw they teeth, just their teeth, and no eyes. All of them, with the body, nothing for the bodies. Just the teeth and all the, the heads were burned.
There were other inexplicable aspects. The terrain where the battle took place was dug up by the American military and replaced with other fresh earth. The bodies that were not hit by projectiles had shrunk to just slightly more than 1 meter in height.
Except that the bodies is killed by the bullets. Most of them that become very small. It's like that, something like that.
We asked Majid what weapon he imagined had been used.
1 year later, we heard that this is update technology. They used a unique one. It's like lasers.
We found another disturbing document on the use of mysterious weapons in Iraq, which refer to episodes taking place almost at the same time as those described by Majid al-Ghazali.
26 in the past, about 20 of them, some of them have no head, the head being cut. Some of them, the arms, the legs. The only one who didn't injure was the driver. And really, I don't know how he reached our hospital, because one hand, one arm was in his lap, one head beside him. It was a very, very strange, horrible thing. In the roof of the car, there was part of the body's momentum, intestine, brains.
Yes, all parts of the body.
It was a miserable, it was very, 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 very miserable.
I told them before.
Do you have idea with what kind of weapons they attacked that bus?
The bus, we didn't know what kind of weapon would be hit. Really, what we saw, cut arms, cut legs, cut head, abdomen, open abdomen, viscera outside.
It seems to be a new weapon.
It seems a new weapon.
They try to do experiments on our civilian.
We don't know what was.
Nobody can identify what the type of this weapon.
We went to Belgium to find the filmmaker of the sequence, Geert van Morter, a doctor working as a volunteer in Iraq.
Here in this footage is taken in the hospital, the General Teaching Hospital in Hilla, which is about 100 kilometers from Baghdad and close to the historical site of Babylon. Here we had a talk with the colleague Dr. Saad al-Faluji, which is the chief surgeon in that hospital. Dr. al-Faluji said to me that from the survivors that he operated, that they said they did not hear any noise. So there was no explosion to hear, no metal fragments or shrapnels or bullets in the bodies. So they themselves were thinking of some strange kinds of weapon which they did not know.
Let's hear Dr. Saad al-Faluji's story about this more in detail.
In this pass, it was very crowded. They went from Hilla to Kifil to see their families. But before they reached the checkpoint of American checkpoint, they returned back. They said to them, please return, the villagers. They said to them, return back, return back. When he tried to return back, they shoot him from the checkpoint.
No gunshot wounds?
No. I don't know what it was really. We are here 10 surgeons. We couldn't decide what was the weapon which been hit this car.
But inside the bodies, you did not discover ordinary bullets.
All of them being, we didn't find bullets.
Yeah.
We didn't find bullets. But most of the injured people been dead, so they took them immediately to the refrigerator. We couldn't dissect and see. But those who are alive, we couldn't find any kind of shells. We didn't find shells inside their body.
Something cutting organs, cutting limbs, attacking the neck, attacking the abdomen, and goes out.
Lasers sound like the stuff of science fiction, right? Sound completely unbelievable. How could our military possibly be using those in future warfare? Guess what? We've just had a recent breakthrough, more great test results that are making lasers a reality. So it's called Athena. Lockheed Martin makes it, and they've been doing a lot of the pioneering in this laser field. Now what's really exciting about it is that it's so hard to harness that much power and make it compact enough that it's actually going to make practical sense downrange. And they've proven that they can do that. Recently, they tested it against 5 moving drones, so realistic drones that they might go up against with, enemy forces might send against us, for example, or terrorists might send against us. And it successfully shot down all 5 of the drones. This is huge news because it means that in a realistic, practical setting, it's looking very promising. So it could be ready to field quite soon. So when you see the movies or you look at comic books or television shows, when you see the laser weapons, they tend to be a color, right? Red or green or something like that. Real lasers, one of the key advantages that they provide is that they are invisible. You actually can't see them. You just see this damage suddenly starting to blow something up. So if we take a look now at what the Athena did to a truck. So we're looking at a truck engine, and the Athena within seconds was able to beam right in there, heat the whole thing up, and burn through the engine of this vehicle. So if you can imagine if you were in that vehicle, all of a sudden this hole would start appearing in your engine and the whole thing would just disappear. That's what these lasers do. Now there's some other key advantages that we should mention. Let me give you 3 of them. 1, unlimited ammo. As long as we have power, we have an unlimited magazine. And downrange, of course, having unlimited ammo can be a huge advantage. 2nd, it's silent. You don't give the enemy any advance warning that it's coming. And then the 3rd one I wanted to touch on is that it travels at the speed of light. So not only are we delivering powerful, decisive effects, lethality, we're also doing it so rapidly they don't know what hit them. So if you could circle back to that example of being in the car again, that would happen so instantaneously, within seconds, you truly would have no idea what was happening. It would just suddenly start disintegrating, right? So what can we use these against? So we talked about the vehicle a bit. We talked about how Athena has just proven itself against drones. But in the real-world application, our forces could use it against the drones. We could use it against aircraft. We could use it against vehicles on the ground, like we mentioned. We could also use it against fast attack boats. And in fact, Athena's sibling, Adam, a couple years ago proved that it could eliminate these fast attack boats. So if you imagine boats start trying to swarm one of our ships, not a problem for this laser. Burns right through the hull. As you can see right there, it's burning right through the hull. I'm incredibly excited about this news, this great news about the successful testing of Athena, because it means that we'll be putting these powerful weapons soon. We could put them in the hands of our warfighters and give them even more powerful weaponry to keep themselves safe and also to deliver the effects that we need. They can be used, laser weapons can be used offensively and of course defensively too, to help protect our homeland. Think of our airports that might be under threat from enemy drones. They could be used to protect we could use them statically and used to protect our airports. They could be used to protect our power grid, our nuclear plants. So there's lots of different exciting applications for this technology. It is no longer science fiction, but science fact.
Naval Sea Systems Command's Directed Energy and Electric Weapons Systems Program Office, or PMS 405, is investigating the use of high-energy laser systems on Navy surface ships. One such system is the Navy Laser Weapon System, or LAWS. The Directed Energy Warfare Office, or DWO, of the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Dahlgren, Virginia, is the technical direction agent for LAWS. NSWC Dahlgren has been performing laser research, development, test, and evaluation for decades.
Ever since the invention of the laser, the world has envisioned a laser weapon system. The technology is real. We are proving it in the lab, and we're also moving it out into the field and showing to ourselves and to our customers that this technology is real.
You have speed of light delivery. You push a button, the laser's at the target immediately. You don't have a fly-out time.
The munition is a precision beam of light that we point at the target, and we have a virtually unending supply.
With our systems, you never run out of power. You can keep shooting as long as the adversary keeps throwing targets at you.
There is a lot of mission space where the covert capability of the laser is also beneficial because you can cause an effect without there being any visible sign of what caused that effect.
Lockheed Martin is the only company to have internally funded a 30-kilowatt laser weapon prototype.
This is where science becomes a reality. We are actually in the process of building these high-power laser systems, putting together in this lab, validating their performance.
In 2009, LAWS was tested against UASs in a desert environment at the Naval Air Warfare Center in China Lake, California. A team of scientists and engineers from NSWC Dahlgren, Computer Sciences Corporation Innovative Science and Technology Experimentation Facility, Pennsylvania State University Electro-Optics Center, and L3 Brashear set up and operated the LAWS system and instrumentation. The CWIS was not part of this test. The UASs were launched and flew a realistic flight pattern for engagement by the LAWS system at tactical distances. The test at China Lake was a complete success, locating, tracking, and shooting down 5 UASs at different ranges. Each of them caught fire, lost control, fell to the desert floor, and crashed, causing complete destruction of the UAS. The test demonstrated the capability of the LAWS system. In 2010, LAWS was tested against a threat representative UAS target in an over-the-water combat representative scenario at San Nicolas Island, California. This remote island, about 60 miles off the coast of California near Ventura, provided realistic and challenging maritime conditions. During this test, LAWS was connected to a CWIS system which provided designation or initial pointing data to the LAWS system. Scientists and engineers from NSWC Dahlgren operated the LAWS system and instrumentation, while CWIS was operated by Raytheon. The UASs were flown over the ocean for engagement by the LAWS system. The test at San Nicolas Island was also a complete success, locating, tracking, and destroying 4 UASs. These were the Navy's first detect-through-engage laser shoot-downs in a maritime environment. LAWS program manager, Captain David Keel, said, "The success of this effort validates the military utility of directed energy weapons in a maritime environment. Further development and integration of increasingly more powerful lasers into LAWS will increase both the engagement range and target sets that can be successfully engaged and destroyed." Other targets were also successfully engaged during the San Nicolas Island test. The highly successful tests at China Lake and San Nicolas Island show that LAWS is a capable, effective, and accurate system in both desert and maritime environments. The next step is integrating LAWS with a ship and the CWIS. LAWS is also a low-risk, high-payoff technology. It's the Surface Navy's first tactical development for fielding of a directed energy weapon system. LAWS represents a game-changing technology that will provide Navy ship commanders with a new weapon that has nearly instantaneous time of flight, a deep magazine, and the ability to conserve defensive missiles and projectiles for use on other targets.